Tonight, two massive searches are underway. One for a teenager who went missing in Buffalo Pound Lake, the other in northern Saskatchewan for a man accused of shooting at police. Also, a judge lifts a publication ban so we can finally report why the head of the Lighthouse homeless shelter in Saskatoon was booted from his job. Plus, punishing rain and a whole lot of water. We get the very latest on the wild weather happening in Saskatchewan.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Monday, June 20th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin in northern Saskatchewan tonight and with the ongoing hunt for a suspect considered armed and dangerous. RCMP exchanged fire with a man in Ronge yesterday and 2 bullets hit an officer's vehicle. Police took 17 people into custody, then released 15 of them without charges. But RCMP are still searching for the man who fired the gun. David Shield reports.
It was a scary weekend in Ronge. Around noon Sunday, police issued a public safety alert saying they were searching for 2 men with handguns. Someone had opened fire on officers. No one was hurt, but a manhunt was launched searching for the people responsible. People living in the northern town of Ronge and the village of Ronge, 300 kilometers northeast of Saskatoon, were told to stay inside their houses and lock their doors and windows. Stores were shut down. Here's a video of the Ronge Children's Festival as the news came in.
Last information we got, they're calling in more reinforcements, SWAT team and stuff are coming, so we're shutting down for the day. We apologize for the inconvenience, but we want to thank everybody for coming out.
RCMP also released this photo of one suspect running with a gun. He was last seen south of the village of Ronge. People in the area were understandably nervous. The chief of the Lac La Ronge Indian Band says it was a scary situation.
The ones that I talked to were very scared and didn't know what was going on because there's a lot of police officers present and there was more coming in, so we were just trying to make sure that people were getting the information that we were receiving from the RCMP.
By late Sunday afternoon, RCMP had canceled the public safety alert and taken multiple people into custody, but they were still searching for one man, the man in this photo. So Monday, students at schools in Ronge and Ronge weren't allowed outside, and extra police were brought in to search in and around the northern communities. David Shield, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Dive teams and police continued their search on the north side of Buffalo Pound Lake today. They're looking for a teenager who was swept into the water 3 days ago. Police say the teen was walking and swimming with 4 friends at Barney's Beach on Friday. That's in the North Grove area. Police on the scene say the boy in his mid to late teens was swept out into the water by a strong wind around 5:30 p.m. A resident in a home next to the beach says the intense wind didn't die down until mid-Saturday afternoon. Stars Air Ambulance, conservation officers and Moose Jaw Search and Rescue searched unsuccessfully through the weekend. Family and friends have set up a small gathering area on Barney's Beach while the search continues. They are asking for privacy. RCMP have a number of boats and divers in the lake looking for the teen. They're asking people to avoid the area. Heavy rain caused havoc in Saskatoon this afternoon. The downpour caused flooding, at least temporarily, on several streets, including Broadway. Water was reaching halfway up wheels and making driving treacherous. Saskatoon police said Taylor and Lorne Avenue underpass locations were impassable. This wild weather comes less than a day after tornado warnings popped up over eastern Saskatchewan. It all started when a supercell storm moved toward Kipling yesterday afternoon. Environment Canada says so far they have no official reports of a tornado, but they suspect what you are seeing is a gust-nado or plow wind. They're investigating a funnel cloud that was spotted near LaPorte. Hail the size of golf balls, even tennis balls, was also reported. And there were downed trees and power lines in Mooseman and Pelican Narrows. The strength of the storm prompted Environment Canada to issue an emergency alert message that interrupted TV and radio programs and popped up on phones. This was the first of its kind in Saskatchewan since Environment Canada upgraded their reporting system earlier this year. We now know why the head of the Lighthouse was booted from the organization. Former executive director Don Windells was put on leave in January. Turns out, a judge ordered his immediate removal after an inspector was appointed to investigate a pair of controversial financial deals. Yasmin Yanea reports.
The former executive director of the Saskatoon Lighthouse, Don Windells, didn't want anyone to know why he lost his job with the high-profile nonprofit organization. Windells applied for a publication ban that prevented us from reporting those reasons. Until now. For years, Windells ran the Lighthouse, which provides housing and services to vulnerable people. And he was also connected to a subsidiary of the Lighthouse called the Blue Mountain Adventure Park. Reports of controversial financial dealings triggered a judge to order an investigation. And then in December, Justice David Krecki ordered the removal of Windells from both organizations, effective immediately. The judge says Windells asked the Lighthouse for a loan in 2017 so he could buy a house for his recently divorced daughter. Instead, the Lighthouse bought the property itself for $60,000. The amount was not recorded as a loan, but as a capital asset worth $60,000. The judge found that Windells had sole and exclusive possession of the house for the entire time it was owned by the Lighthouse, and the Lighthouse paid for insurance, utilities, and property taxes during that time. The deal was approved by the Lighthouse board in a closed-door meeting. Krecki says Windells failed to discharge his duties honestly. It's also been revealed that there was a value increase on the house from $60,000 to $230,000. The judge says no accounting has been provided to explain the increase. The judge's decision also found that Windells, his wife, and their family corporation took a series of loans from the Lighthouse, adding up to nearly $290,000 between 2008 to 2013. The inspector also found that another board member received a loan of $30,000 from the Lighthouse for his own business venture. That loan has never been repaid, though the judge says there may now be plans to do so. Yasmin Ronge, CBC News, Saskatoon. The Saskatchewan Roughriders are now 2 for 2 to start the season, but Saturday's win in Edmonton, it was a costly one. Dan Clark, a team leader and the anchor on the offensive line, could be out of the Riders lineup for quite some time. Number 67 suffered an ankle injury with a minute left in the fourth quarter when his right leg was rolled on from behind. Judging by his reaction while he was being carted off the field, it would suggest the serious nature of the injury. The team was off today, so we won't know any specifics until after the team's practice tomorrow. The Riders do have a short turnaround. They play in Montreal Thursday night. Well, here's a few more of the dramatic sights from Saskatoon after that deluge of rain that fell this afternoon. So how much rain is the Bridge City in for, and when is it going to stop? Christy Kleiman-Hegel will have the details in your forecast after the break. Stay with us. The California company behind a popular hot sauce has suspended production because it can't get enough hot peppers. The scarcity is in part caused by drought, and that is causing concern for the rest of U.S. and Canada, who rely heavily on California for fruits and veggies. Ayanyat Singh reports.
It's limiting the amount of ground that we can farm. It's limiting the amount of the intensity that we can farm.
California farmers are struggling in the third year of the worst drought on record, leading to water restrictions for farmers. The changing climate has caught up with the world-famous Sriracha hot sauce this summer. Hoi Fong Foods, its producer in California, has suspended production after extreme heat and drought hit the hot pepper crops the company uses.
For pepper and tomatoes, it's really more about heat stress. We get, last week we had 103 degrees, so that's about 41 degrees Celsius. And pollen basically aborts, at this stage, so you don't get fruit or flower set at these temperatures.
Hot peppers have been affected along with other vegetables and grains. 20% of all of Canada's crop imports come from California, worth $2.8 billion in 2021, and crop failures there could lead to price hikes and empty shelves here. All this brings new urgency to helping Canadian farmers produce our food closer to home.
We could rely on more Canadian crops and developing them more. I think we should definitely, seek out Canadian fruit and veg when we go to the grocery store.
Ottawa farmer Heiko Kreigsman grows several varieties of hot peppers and makes a popular line of hot sauces, but he says investment is critical to boost production here.
If there were ways that those actually being invested in greenhouses, for example, here in Canada, you can actually get a lot of the vegetables that are now being grown in the southern parts of the world in this place as well.
The drought in California shows the importance of local farms like Kreigsman's to help keep Canada's food supply stable. Inayat Singh, CBC News, Toronto.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. The exclusive export event is back.
Ethan Williams is enjoying some hard-earned time away this week. Meteorologist Christy Kleiman-Haga has slid in his place. And Christy, it has been a real wild 24 hours weather-wise.
Well, a wild 24 hours and on top of the crazy weather this weekend, and it just seems like it keeps going and going as we do have more weather alerts in place. Let's take a look at some of the photos that have come in just from today, and you can see heavy rainfall flooding streets across Saskatoon. This picture in from Sydney, another photo of folks that are having to abandon their vehicles after trying to drive through the deep water because it can be very deceptive on how much water there is out there, and even people taking advantage and kayaking in their back alleys today as heavy rainfall fell throughout the city. The east side just flooded with this rainfall. This one in from Steve over in Saskatoon. Now, it's not the only active weather out there, but it was quite the cell. You can see on radar that really heavy rainfall. Unfortunately, a radar pop-out right in the middle of it, but heavy rain just slid through the city right in the early afternoon, now tapering off, and you're finally seeing a break. But it will be a short-lived break as more rainfall on the way for tonight and into the day tomorrow as well. Now, as for how much rain fell, it's varied throughout the city. The east side looking to see or saw most of the rainfall, over 42 millimeters. So to put that in perspective, that's almost 2/3 of your monthly allotment of rain for the month of June. Nowhere near the record, though, of 96 millimeters. But yes, over that short period of time, just 2 hours, of course, seeing some flooding out there. As for our temperatures, with that rainfall, it has been a cooler day across central Saskatchewan. Still building that heat, though, in the southeast. 26 degrees right now in Regina, 17 in Saskatoon. Winds fairly light, but we are seeing some thunderstorm activity developing in parts of southern Saskatchewan, which is meaning some gusty weather, especially towards the southwestern corner of the province. That's where most of our active cells really are at this hour, but the risk of those cells developing and sliding a little further towards the southeast through the day. Here's a wider look at our radar picture right now. You can see it's a busy one, that heavy rain that rolled through Saskatoon, now around the Prince Albert area. Taking a closer look to the southwest, though, that's where all of those thunderstorms are really firing off at this point. We are seeing very strong cells right around the Swift Current area at this hour, and even some watches and warnings to reflect that. We are seeing even a tornado warning, actually, just to the southwest or southeast of Swift Current. So if you are in that area that you see in pink, that's just popped up. Do seek shelter immediately, as there is a very powerful storm in the region. Now, as for what's causing all of this weather, we are seeing a weak low pressure system moving out, but behind that, all of that rainfall continuing over the next 24 hours. Showery weather most of the day tomorrow. Looks like some thunderstorm activity tomorrow as well, but luckily it is staying on the weaker side, and it looks like you will see some relief in towards the weekend in terms of temperature, but it is going to be a showery week ahead. So here's a look at our long-range forecast for Regina. 21 degrees in thunderstorm activity, breezy conditions as well. Sunshine for Wednesday, that's your brief break, and you can see those temperatures really rebounding with that sunshine, but not lasting long. More cloud cover, more showery weather by the weekend, and looks like you will see those temperatures really just bumping around the mid to high 20s. Into Saskatoon over the next 7 days, again, cold and showery tomorrow, the risk of some thunderstorm activity. 25 for Wednesday and Thursday, some showers as well to close out the week, so it is going to be a soggy one on top of all of the rain that you saw today. Sunshine through the weekend and sunshine as well into the start of next week, but again, that wild weather really in effect for tonight, that especially that tornado warning around the Swift Current area. Sam?
All right. Thanks, Christy. Stay with us. We'll have more news after the break. Ukraine is closer to joining the EU now that the European Commission supports its status as a candidate for membership. The process could take many years, but there are already concerns about possible reprisals from Russia. Salima Shivji reports.
The latest warning from Ukraine's president of a difficult week ahead comes just days after this boost from the European Commission.
Yes, Ukraine deserves European perspective. Yes, Ukraine should be welcomed as a candidate country.
And days before a formal vote to grant Ukraine candidate status in the EU, a historic vote that could drastically change Ukraine's political future.
I think it is obvious to everyone that since 1991, there have been few such fateful decisions for Ukraine as we expect now.
But also one, says President Volodymyr Zelensky, that could have immediate consequences.
We should expect greater hostile activity from Russia, purposefully, demonstratively, this week exactly, and not only against Ukraine, but also against other European countries. We are preparing. We are ready. We warn partners.
Zelensky, fresh off a rare visit away from the capital, Kyiv, he traveled to the southern part of the country on the Black Sea to visit damaged buildings in Mykolaiv and speak with soldiers on the front line. This is fresh fighting, very fierce, continues in the east as it settles into a war of attrition with no major developments on either side as Russia tries to gain full control of the Donbass. The Kremlin has said that it doesn't matter to them. It has nothing against Ukraine joining the EU since it is not a military bloc, but that it is watching developments carefully. This as more warnings pile up from NATO as well as from the UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson that the world needs to be prepared for the war in Ukraine to last years. Similar concerns from Britain's new top soldier. General Patrick Sanders sent out an internal note to all ranks and civil servants, basically warning that the world has changed since Russia invaded Ukraine on the 24th of February. That there is now, he says in the note, a burning imperative for the army to be prepared for a land battle, to stand alongside its allies and try to defeat Russia. Sanders says that this is the generation that must prepare for the army to fight in Europe once again. Salima Shivji, CBC News, London.
CBC has discovered a retirement home in Ottawa where several Catholic clergymen convicted of sex crimes are cared for and protected. The men are given refuge at Springhurst residence. The Oblate Order says it provides monitoring and care for those who've been convicted. But as Julie Ireton reports, critics say there's no such support for survivors.
The Springhurst residence is nestled in this family neighborhood, just footsteps from a park and Ottawa's Rideau River. For decades, several men who abused children in residential schools in various parishes across the country have taken refuge at this residence, owned by the Oblates of Mary Immaculate. Some have stayed while awaiting trial or after serving time in prison. Bob Gordon lives in the neighborhood. He wasn't aware of the dark history of some of the facility's residents.
Nobody actually said that they were shocked. And that kind of just made me question what our perceptions of the institution. That they can have those types of people that are in there. Nobody in the community knows about it, but nobody's actually shocked that it actually is, that they're actually there.
Springhurst was the home where Leona Huggins' abuser came to live after his conviction. John McCann repeatedly sexually abused her for years at a parish in British Columbia, and she wasn't his only victim. Huggins was the first to report McCann's abuse in the 1990s. Then she blew the whistle again years after his conviction. She found out he was still working as a parish priest in Ottawa and living here at Springhurst.
It's hard to see these men being so well taken care of when the survivors have not been. They've ignored the survivors. They've often, for someone like me, I was ostracized. I wasn't only ignored, I was ostracized for something that I should have been ultimately thanked for.
The head of the Oblates says the order now has a written policy dictating how to monitor sex offenders.
The reason that we continue to house and that we continue to care for them is to allow us to continue to monitor. Recidivism is a real concern with people who have offended against minors, and this is a way to mitigate the possibility of reoffending.
But a former priest thinks those convicted should be kicked out.
They shouldn't be allowed to remain in the religious orders or in a diocese. They should be laicized, because the excuse that we have the opportunity to monitor them, to keep an eye on them, to do all this stuff is a very weak one, because in practice that has not been very, very well carried out.
There are currently 19 Oblate members living at Springhurst. 2 of the elderly priests were convicted of sexual crimes. The Oblates have a policy to care for them for life, and in total, CBC has confirmed at least 9 convicted sex offenders who have taken refuge here.
What are the victims getting? A compensatory remuneration is nothing compared to the ruined lives that they have gone through when they're being fully catered to in a facility.
Julie Ireton, CBC News, Ottawa.
And Christy is back with an update on that active weather in the southwest.
Yeah, some very strong thunderstorm activity in southwestern Saskatchewan. A tornado warning in effect right now for the RM of Cooley and the RM of Latonia, as there has been a spotted tornado near Rosenhof. So if you are in those 2 RMs, you're advised to seek shelter immediately, head to the lowest floor of your house or away from walls and windows, as there is a tornado in your area. Now, the risk of severe weather continuing through the rest of the evening, including in Regina. Here's a look at Regina's forecast for tonight. Rainfall overnight, on and off 16 degrees at midnight, and cloudy conditions by tomorrow morning. You will likely still see that cloud cover sticking around. Temperatures holding fairly steady overnight, 15 at 8 a.m. In Saskatoon overnight, looks like 14 and rainfall at midnight. So more of that for you after the rainy day today. And again, continuing through the day tomorrow before we get into a little bit of a break by your day on Wednesday. So more wet weather to come, Sam.
All right. Thanks, Christy.
You're welcome.
And before we leave you, the McMorris Foundation's annual Celebrity Slow Pitch Tournament was back this weekend for the first time since 2019. There were 12 teams paired with local, national, and international celebrities and athletes at the Diamonds in Regina's Douglas Park. That included Olympic medalists, NFLers, actors, former CFLers, and professional snowboarders. 100% of the event's proceeds are expected to go toward Jumpstart, a charity that helps fund youth sport. Both Craig and Mark McMorris say they owe a lot of their success to the sporting world in Saskatchewan.
We're from Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan made us, sports made us, so why not give back to Saskatchewan through sport, right? We learned all of our life lessons through sport, dedication, perseverance, working hard, all that kind of stuff, and we want to pass that on to a younger generation. So we want to get kids involved with sport. That was the MO of the McMorris Foundation.
I'm going to just have to second what he said. When you get an opportunity to play all these sports as a kid, it really gives you your avenues, and I think every kid should have that opportunity. So we're raising money to give kids that opportunity, and hopefully registration fees or travel and all that's not the question, and we can provide that. So
the tournament raised $60,000 for Jumpstart. And that is it for us tonight. For News Anytime, you can always head to our website or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Glenn Reed will be back with more local news tonight at 11. Up next, Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals. We're back tomorrow at 6. Thank you for watching and have a great night.